John Kramer, the good bad guy, or the bad good guy? I don't know. You tell me. With the release of Saw X, we are able to get into the mind of one of horror's most recent icons. Saw X is the latest installment in the Saw franchise and stars Tobin Bell, Shawnee Smith, Synnøve Macody Lund, Stephen Brand, and Renata Vaca. Saw X is filled with the return of the series' most beloved characters, with death traps and gore, but the film isn't the strongest in the series and lacks a bit of that torture porn oomph that it once had, but tries to capture the spark of the old films in the series, but with little success. Saw X follows John Kramer, who has been diagnosed with brain cancer. In an attempt to find a cure, he contacts Cecilia Peterson, who claims to have a secret procedure that can cure Kramer's cancer. Kramer undergoes Peterson's procedure only to find out that it's a fake. Kramer hunts each individual down one by one and forces them to play a game. Saw X brings back John Kramer, the infamous Jigsaw killer. With that being said, you pretty much know what to expect. There's death traps, torture and gore, and with him, Kramer brings several new toys and puzzles for his helpless victims, which still makes us all wonder, how the hell can he afford all of this stuff? Along with the traps comes the gore as the helpless victims try to free themselves at the sacrifice of their own body. And bam, you have a Saw film. The formula has not changed with this new installment, so there's some play on the nostalgia with this film. When it comes to Saw films and horror movies in a broad sense, the audience seems to be more focused on the bad guy, and that's more so with this film. But it happens to the point where I don't care about any other character other than the characters we already know about. There isn't any expansion of the world of Saw, but it's more of an adventure of the horror hero, John Kramer. The film tackles the series from Kramer's perspective. This humanizes Kramer in a way that many horror movie villains really don't get. We get a backstory, but for the most part, we never dive into the psyche of the villain. For example, we don't know what drives Michael and Jason to kill or why Freddy can haunt you in your dreams. There really isn't an answer to the why. But Saw X is a big answer to Jigsaw's why. The film tries to turn Jigsaw into a relatable protagonist that traps people and kills them, which is daring. Now, did they do a good job? Considering that this film takes place after Saw and before Saw 2, and all hell breaks loose later in the series, I don't think so. This film makes John Kramer out to be a bit too lighthearted and not the dark serial killer we knew in previous films, which begs the question of why we have to go this far into Kramer's perspective in the first place. It does not help that Kramer is the Carnage, but yet we're following him as if he's some hero in a horror movie. Saw X felt like a watered down version of past films in the series. Everything from the traps to the gore to the characters just seemed dimmed. Compared to what we've seen, the traps are pretty basic. We've seen the rotation trap, the ribcage trap, the pendulum trap, the shotgun trap, all iconic traps from previous films. However, I can say that this film has no iconic traps. And the gore that we experience is not nearly up to standard with the series that started the torture porn wave back in the early 2000s. The film is a shadow of its former self, Instead of adding fresh blood to the series, Saw X chooses to play on the old, and it gets treated like such. The horror element of this film is supposed to be the gore, but I can say that I've seen worse in other Saw films. The film does have gory moments, but if you compare this with any other film, you'll notice a clear difference in how it's handled. Personally, this film felt like it was fan service. I think it was created to revitalize the series but not necessarily expand it. We do get to see the story from another angle, but this veers from the original meaning of the series. I was not a fan of painting John Kramer as a hero, even if the victims were deserving. I don't like how the film tried to get me to root for Kramer. This was the guy who, in the second film, tripwired a shotgun to blow somebody's brains out with no remorse. And another major point that I questioned was whether the inclusion of Mexico was well thought out. It's Latino Heritage Month, and we have this horror film with white characters and Mexican characters. The white characters arguably have the more prominent roles, whereas the Mexican characters have been reduced to kill fodder. Most of the Mexican characters are prostitutes, drug addicts, or con artists. Unfortunately, the film commits the sin of taking a cultural setting and using it as a backdrop without actually including the local populace in a meaningful way. Overall, I'm going to be up tonight trying to figure out what I liked about Saw X. Even for a standalone Saw film, I felt as though it didn't meet the standard that it set for itself, and if there was a bar, it didn't try and cross it. The film comes off as a reminder that the franchise exists rather than a revitalization of bigger, better, and expansive. But don't take my word for it. Go see it for yourself and tell us what you think in the comment section below. That's all for this video. If you like this video, and if you dislike this video, let us know why in the comments section. Until next time, peace.